I always counted the steps. 8 steps from the couch to the front door. I don't know why. It wasn't a habit. It wasn't a ritual. It was just something I did quietly in the back of my mind. 1, 2, 3, always the same rhythm, always the same result. But one night, I got up to grab a package I thought I heard drop, and when I reached step 10, the door was still far. I stopped, blinked, turned around. The couch was closer than it should have been, like I had moved in both directions without moving at all. I shook it off, laughed, even thought I was tired, distracted. But the next night it happened again. 9 steps, 10, 11. The door didn't come. The hallway felt longer, narrower, like the apartment had inhaled without exhaling. I started touching the wall with my hand as I walked, thinking maybe I was drifting. But the wall felt strange, softer, not warm, not cold, just slow, as if it was remembering the shape of my hand a second too late. I turned on all the lights, measured the hallway with a tape measure. It said 4 2-meters, the same as always, but walking it took longer. My footsteps echoed differently. Once, I heard them start before I moved. Another time, they continued after I stopped. The apartment didn't change, but I did. I began hesitating before opening doors. The bedroom looked right, but it felt mirrored. The window faced the alley, but the alley looked wrong, like the angles of the buildings had shifted half a degree inward. Subtle, just enough for your eyes to dismiss, but not your gut. One evening, I dropped my keys and bent to pick them up. When I stood up, the ceiling was lower, just a touch, like the room had sagged under its own weight. The lights flickered not when the power surged, but when I turned my back, I started moving through the apartment slower, careful, as if the floor would shift if I stepped too hard. And sometimes it did. The kitchen tiles were off-center one night, just slightly. I counted them. 24. The next morning, 23, I stopped sleeping. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't trust what I'd wake up to. And one night, just before 3 a.m., I walked from the bedroom to the living room. 7 steps in, then 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, but the living room never came. The hallway kept stretching. The door behind me was gone. The light above flickered and stayed dim, and the wall on my left began curving, not sharp, not sudden, just enough that, when I reached out again, I touched air, and then, after a silence too heavy for sound, I heard a voice. My voice. Behind me, not loud, not urgent, just tired, it said, "This isn't where I left you." I turned around, but there was no one there, just more hallway, just more wrong. I stopped trying to leave through the hallway. I started opening doors just to see where they led. The bathroom should have been on the left, but one night I opened it and found the kitchen. Not a kitchen like mine, a version of it, darker, empty, too empty. No plates, no fridge, just 4 walls and a sink dripping without sound. I closed the door, counted to 5, opened it again. It was my closet. Still smelled like soap and old fabric. I laughed. I think I had to. The alternative was harder to hold. I stopped turning off the lights. They didn't matter anymore. Sometimes the switches controlled nothing. Sometimes the lamp flicked on before I touched it. The room began remembering me out of order. I'd walk into the bedroom, and my coat would already be draped on the chair, even though I hadn't worn it in days. The mug I hadn't washed was suddenly clean and warm. The air inside smelled like toast before I ever felt hungry. I tried opening the front door. I saw the hallway narrow, dull. But when I stepped through, I was in my bathroom again. Lights off, mirror covered. I stepped back, closed the door, tried again. This time it led to the living room. Same couch, same angle, except it wasn't mine. The cushions were older. The photo on the shelf was different. Same frame, different face. Me, but not quite. A little thinner, a little more tired. I touched the fabric of the couch. It felt like memory, faint, not quite real. I backed away, closed the door. I opened the same one again. It was the bedroom. The clock read 2:48 a.m. I had just been there, but the lamp was off now. The bed made, and I was already lying in it. Eyes closed, still. I didn't step inside. I closed the door slowly, careful not to wake myself. I whispered, "I'm not ready." I don't know why. The door behind me creaked open. I turned. It was the hallway again. Long, curved, familiar in a way that made me dizzy. I walked, slowly. My feet touched floor, but made no sound. The hallway felt considerate, like it was trying to prepare me. I reached a door I didn't remember having. Simple, wooden, handle cold. I opened it, and there I was, back in the living room. Except this time, someone was sitting on the couch, facing away, breathing slow, head tilted, waiting. I didn't speak. I stepped back. But the door was gone. The walls shifted, gently, as if bracing for me to finally understand. And then the figure on the couch stood, slowly, deliberately, not turning, just speaking, with my voice. "You always thought this place was yours, but you were the only thing that kept forgetting where it really ends." Then silence, and the room reshaped itself again, walls bending like breath, and I realized I hadn't left my apartment in days, or weeks, or maybe I never moved in at all. I tried to map it, drew lines on paper, marked each door, measured the walls, wrote labels in pencil. Bedroom A, hallway B, kitchen dark, closet warm, mirror room, me in bedroom. None of them stayed consistent. One night, the door to the bedroom opened into a hallway with no end. The next, it opened into a kitchen where the stove was missing. I scratched out the map, started over. I stopped trying to sleep. I didn't know which version of the bed I'd wake up in. I didn't know if I was the one dreaming. One night, I stood still for so long, I heard the building breathe around me. The floor dipped slightly. The lights flickered not in fear, but in confusion, like they weren't sure which layer they belonged to anymore. That was the night I broke the wall. Took a chair, swung hard, splintered the plaster. Behind it, another room, clean, dustless, empty, my apartment but cleaner. Too clean, like it had just been built or never lived in. I stepped through. The floor creaked differently. The air was thinner. I walked to the window. Outside, nothing. No street, no city, just gray, like fog without weight, like sky without light. I turned back. The wall I broke was gone. In its place, a mirror, not glass. A surface that shimmered like memory. I touched it. It rippled. And through it, I saw myself standing in the hallway, staring into the same wall. But this version of me wasn't moving. I knocked. He blinked. I waved. He didn't. I spoke. He mouthed the same word at the same time. But I didn't say that word. I said something else. I said, "Let me out." And he mouthed, "Stay here." I backed away. He stepped forward. Our movements no longer matched. The mirror began to pulse, not with light, with pressure. I ran. Through the only door left. It opened into the living room. The same, but not. The lights were on, but no switches worked. The couch was missing one cushion. The photo on the shelf was blank. I heard footsteps, slow, steady. Behind me, I turned. No one, but the shadow cast on the floor didn't belong to me. It was ahead, like something already standing where I was about to step. I froze. The walls curved again, just slightly, enough to remind me this wasn't space anymore. It was a container, not for me, for something that had worn through too many versions of me to remember which one was first. And I wondered then, what if this wasn't my apartment twisted into something else? What if I was the thing that had wandered in too far? And now, the space was just trying to correct its mistake. I stopped counting doors, stopped naming the rooms. The space no longer cared for my logic. It curved when I expected straight. It closed when I begged for open. But that night, I found it. A door that didn't shift, didn't pulse, didn't hum, just sat at the end of a hallway that hadn't changed in days. I touched the handle. Warm, solid. I opened it slowly, unsure whether I wanted it to open at all. Inside was a room, just a room. Square, quiet, still. No echo, no distortion, just stillness. And in the center of that stillness, someone sat on a chair, back to me, shoulders relaxed, breathing steady. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. I stepped forward, and with every step, the room stayed the same. No shifts, no loops, no tricks, just stillness. When I reached the chair, I circled slowly. And of course, it was me, not dead, not asleep, just settled, eyes open, calm, like someone who had accepted something long before I arrived. I stared, my throat dry. I whispered, "What is this place?" And the other me smiled. Stability. I didn't understand. Why am I here? He looked up, and I saw it, in his eyes. a tiredness that stretched beyond memory because you wandered too far, and something had to hold shape while the rest shifted. I stepped back. You mean I'm the one keeping it from collapsing? He nodded. You are now. I shook my head. I want to go back. He smiled again, softer this time. That version of you already left. Someone had to stay. Someone always has to stay. I looked down. My feet were rooted, not stuck. Chosen. I hadn't noticed the room dimming. I hadn't noticed my breath sinking with his. I sat down, opposite him. The room didn't move. It held, for the first time. And I felt it, everything outside twisting, cycling, erasing, searching for a new center. But this room wouldn't change, not anymore. I watched as the other me stood, nodded once, and stepped through the door I had entered. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. He would become the next version to wander, to forget, to find his way back. And I, now seated, now still, would wait until the space bent again, until the center wavered, until someone else arrived, looking for their way out, only to find they were never meant to leave, only to learn space doesn't trap you, it copies you, then asks which version it needs to keep.